apply to what we are coming to talk about. Good morning to you.
Morning.
I am right to say that where you are currently and what we are about to discuss there's no correlation.
We are all affected by the floods.
Yes.
So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. But it's nice to have you on the line, and thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you too for calling me.
Mm-hmm. I hope you are in good health, though.
Oh, I am.
Great. First, let's start with, and I'm sure you've been commenting on this for many, many years because you've been one of the most consistent advocates in our public space, especially on radio, TV, in the media space for so long. When it comes to the matter of floods, nothing that is said is new. But what is your own reading of what the problem is? And has that assessment changed over the years, or you have stuck with what your position has always been?
Well, nothing has changed in that the floods still occur at the same appointed time every year. That should tell you that something is wrong. And what is wrong has to do with a lot of things. Let's start with the fact that most of Accra lies below the water table. When I say lies below the water table, the top of the water table is the point at which the soil or the substrate on the ground exists below the water line, the natural water line, the lay of the land. It's as simple as that. So what we shouldn't have been doing was to put structures in certain places that you, for example, have a natural sink. When I say a natural sink, I'm talking about a place where runoff water, when it rains, will settle. And those places are designed by nature. So I've often spoken about a settlement like Villaggio that was built into one of the natural receptacles in Accra. And that has caused a lot of runoff water from the Scrapping Hills not to find their way into a place that would have been deemed to be its natural resting place, so to speak. And then it's causing water that is coming down the hills when it rains to back up. And when water backs up, you cannot predict its natural course. So it's one of the things. Of course, our behavior over the years with the dumping of plastic into drainage areas, putting all kinds of waste, just throwing it around, is another thing. And then our inability or unwillingness to plan areas that people settle. People build structures anywhere. People raise container stores and kiosks anywhere they like, and it's a big problem.
And I realize that you've identified three things: the siting of our buildings, disposal of rubbish, and then you are also talking about the lack of a planning culture. The last one, is that not more of the job of the authorities? Usually we go to the government, or the job of the states.
Yeah, many of the planning officers in municipalities and sub-metros are very corrupt. So they allow these things to go on. They are very, very corrupt. So many of them allow things to go on that should never go on. You recall that of recent there was a huge uproar about the new overpass that was built Remember the new overpass that was built in East Legon?
Yes.
All of a sudden, somebody showed up and claimed they had a planning permission to erect something underneath the under bridge that COP Kofi Boachi actually went to stop as a concerned citizen. You remember that?
Yes.
Those are some of the things that should never happen. And I don't know why that planning officer is still at post, but he's still there. I can tell you for free that nothing was done to him. He's still there.
Then on top, before it, we talk about the indiscriminate disposal of rubbish. But when it comes to the issue of the planning officers, and I'll come to the rubbish matter shortly, but when it comes to the issue of corrupt planning officers, they answer to someone. Where is the failure coming from? Because if the people who are supposed to ensure that they are also doing the right thing were doing their job, would they have been corrupt without consequences?
I think the answer is obvious. No. Look, apart from those things that we are talking about, look, many of these high-rise buildings that you are seeing, right? There is an ordinance that they shouldn't go beyond a certain height, especially in airport residential area, because of aircraft approaches and all that. But they are still going up. Somebody is allowing them to do it. You see, so all the ordinances that should protect us. When someone raises a building that's 16, 17 stories, you should understand that he is putting up a building that is exerting a lot of weight on the ground. If the surrounding land is below the water table, the kind of displacements that happen when it rains causes a lot of these waters to go elsewhere. It's a problem. So we have to have a new approach to re-engineer the floodplains and the flood channels that are existing right now. Since Budget's bedtime, we had the mappings. They still exist. They are still there. Maybe we could use that as a starting point, but we have to actually begin to solve this problem by studying what is in existence right now. But for goodness sake, we shouldn't make it worse. Because every day you see new things that you shouldn't be seeing. And as conscientious citizens, when you try to confront it, there's a system in place that ignores you. You see? So we have to have people in place who are prepared to begin with to stop the rot. Let's begin to stop the rot. And then we need to re-engineer our way around the flood channels. But when you have people building in estuaries, people building in waterways, people willing Ramsar sites to their relatives when they are gone, and all the other things that have taken place in this country, we need to look at it. We need to stop the predatory nature of what goes on around the few green areas that is left in Accra, the indiscriminate sale of Achimota forests. See, we live in a country where the SBAR government were trying to sell the children's park, Eti Sadalanadi's children's park, to the SBAR finance minister's, what do you call it, state group. Right? Kendo Foyata was going to buy Eti Sadalanadi's children's park. So what do you expect is going to happen? We have to have a novel approach to doing some of these things. Like I said the other day to one of your sister stations, if you notice, the planned areas don't flood. Kanda estates, North Kaneshi. And these are areas that are middle class areas. Dansoman is one of the places that is very well planned, was very well planned. Dansoman Estates was well planned by that Champon regime. It is very near the beach. It doesn't flood. Why? Because it was properly engineered. So the engineering solutions to making sure floods don't occur are not that hard. But if it is not done, then the areas will flood when it rains. Because we have blocked the channels that the water, the runoff settles. Places like the marshlands in Jolu that were mysteriously allocated to developers to develop on, and we at some point we cannot cheat nature, because if you notice, it gets worse every year.
I see. But do you see that re-engineering? Because when you talk about the issue of Villaggio, do you think that we did what was necessary? And perhaps who should be funding this?
No, we did not. Because President Kufuor allowed them to build that building, and at the end of the day, his house got flooded too. No, we did not. We should never have allowed that building to take place. Never.
But we should be paying for this. If you have a very rich developer building in a place that create problem for others, should the state be spending money, or should the state be asking that developer?
What we should do is to be sending him the bill. What we should do, of course, the state cannot absolve itself of the responsibility to re-engineer. You see, one of the things that we can do is to map out the current route and then intercept the water at some point by creating floodplains or creating what we call artesian wells to sink the water. So one of the mistakes that I think were made was turning the Kole Lagoon into a gutter. If you notice, from places like Odona and areas like that, even at the confluence of the Kole and the sea, somebody decided to cement that estuary. That was a mistake. Why did we turn it into a gutter? Because now you are removing the ability for the water to, what you call seepage and drainage. You are removing the ability for the water to seep into the surrounding soil and basically go down into the underground artesian receptacles that we have. So when it rains, the water simply sits in the concrete gutter. That shouldn't have happened. I'm not too sure whether we can change that, but it's one of the things that should never have happened. The rubbish sits in the gutter; it doesn't biodegrade, so we simply have to come up with a novel way of trying to re-engineer that problem. My thoughts are that there's a lot of things that we can do with water. So somewhere between where the water comes down and where it ends up, we must be able to intercept the water and sink it into receptacles that we can use for agriculture, receptacles that we can use for other things.
You put this into beautiful context, and you've been doing this for many years. Has anybody ever approached you and said, we want you to be part of a team that actually looks at this? Is that where the problem is for you? That there's not a lot of thought into looking at what the problem is, tracing the roots, where the water is moving, and finding a way of dealing with the problem the way you suggested?
This country is not bereft of engineers. I just happen to be one of them. And many of them will tell you the same thing I'm telling you. So it doesn't have to be me. Let's get some of them who know what to do to get us to where we need to get to. But you see, my problem is in this country, as soon as we talk about these things, somebody may end up seeing that this is a sign that, for want of a better expression, is a sign, is a time for people to, enrich themselves. The problem we have at hand today should not be a problem for people to enrich themselves. It's a problem that we should use to resolve a problem, a solution. We should come up with a solution to resolve a problem. You know, it's a difficult problem. It's a problem that's affecting human life, and we have to sit down and fix it. I don't think it's something that we can do. I mean, the whole of the Netherlands is underwater. In fact, the reason why Holland is called the Netherlands is because the whole of the country is underwater. They have managed to engineer the water away from the lands with what they call dikes. You know, and the dike is simply raising embankments to stop the water from coming over the embankment. So they have engineered their system. They can raise it when the water is high and lower it when it's not that high. And they've lived with it for a long time, for hundreds of years. So it's something we can do. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility for us to fix that problem. It's whether we really want to fix it or whether we want to have this conversation every year. I've been talking about this ever since this problem reared its ugly head in the 2000s. If you remember, during the time of President Kufuor, when lands were being sold indiscriminately, and people were building indiscriminately in Accra, that is when this thing reared its head. And every year it gets worse. Every year it gets worse. At some point, it is going to affect more of the ordinary people of this country than the people who can afford to move elsewhere or live in places where this thing will not become a problem. You know, another place where there's a settlement that should have been checked is Lakeside. Right? When you say Lakeside, it's a place where water aggregates. That's why it's a natural lakeside, if you think about it. And people are born and settled there. The problem is not the settlement. The problem is where the settlement is. Everybody sells land indiscriminately, anyhow, anyway. People just go and build there, and they build there. There's another wetlands near the Sakumono area where people have built, and they should not be allowed to build there. It's not okay for us to go and break down a few houses for people to start screaming, and I'm going to consult to Tumfo, and I'm going to report to this person, and I used to be a member of a political party, we will not vote for you, and we go and destroy one or two homes, and then we think we've done something. That's not the answer. The answer is a holistic and total approach to make sure that these places that are supposed to sink runoff are not encroached upon. Let's begin with that. You know, people live in certain places that they shouldn't be living in. There shouldn't be settlement in certain places because where they live stops water from settling and seeping into the ground. You see, we don't understand the nature of seepage, drainage, and groundwater processes. You've heard people complaining that they have seen mercury on produce that is on agricultural produce that is produced in Greater Accra, and they are tracing it to Galamsey. You've heard it, right?
Yes.
So the the natural seepage and drainage of the land goes everywhere. So when you have a lake sitting there, that it rains and goes into the lake, underground, there is water. The water is not simply just made up of just H2O. There are minerals in it, there are salts in it, there are compounds that allow the water to flow in certain directions. So most of these lakes and receptacles are more or less a semi-permeable membrane. So if you simply just go and surcharge the land with buildings, the water sits there, doesn't go anywhere. I've not even begun to talk about the health issues associated with it. The cholera, the bilharzia, the malaria because of the mosquitoes, and I could go on and on, the dysentery, I could go on and on and on and on and on. That hasn't even been spoken about. But the disastrous nature in which people's lives are affected because where they have settled all of a sudden is flooded, and it's a yearly thing. It is not as if it cannot be engineered. People live in Nzulezu. Like I said, people live in Holland. People live in Belgium. Those are all low countries. And they have engineered the process to make sure that they don't get flooded. But there are strict ordinances. I mean, you can't go to Holland and just go and build your house anywhere because some corrupt, one corrupt town planning officer has allowed you a permit to build the land because you bought the land from the chief. You can't do that. So if we begin to check those things and check it strictly and make sure that there's a price to pay for those things, we have begun the process of ending that conundrum. But when you have people who don't care, and every year they don't care, and then they will tell you, "Oh, but when should we settle?" Well, but when should we settle? The fact that you have a right to settle doesn't mean that your settlement should affect 1,000 other people. And we have to make the point and take the politics too out of it. Oh, we voted for you. If you don't let us have what we want, we won't vote for you again. Okay. If you won't vote for us again, why not? If I have to choose between political power and allowing 1,000 people to drown every day, I will choose the lives of the 1,000 people. So there's a lot to do, and we have to have the political will to get it done. And then we have to engage those who actually know what to do. Right? We have to engage those who know what to do to get it done. Like I said, this country, in my house alone, there are 3 engineers. I'm sure there are many engineers who know what to say, what to do, how to help the situation. But we shouldn't also allow this problem to be seen as an opportunity for people to bilk the state and come up with alarm bells that will make the exchequer come up with all kinds of money for solutions that won't work, because that happens too.
I see.
We live in a country where as soon as people see that there's an opportunity to make money, all hell breaks loose. We shouldn't allow that to happen either. There is a systematic solution that we have to approach to get this problem resolved, and we have to engage that process. We can't just allow it to go on, because sooner or later it will get very bad, very, very, very bad. And I mean, let's just imagine that we get to the point where the floods are so bad that people will now have to move into our compounds to protect themselves. What are you going to do? Are you going to sack them? We have to be very careful. And we needn't even have gotten this far. Because we have had these conversations since the Kufuor years, when this problem reared its head. Every year we have this we sing the dirge for the dead. We have this conversation. We say we vow to the heavens that we are going to do this. I mean, these days we see ministers walking through the floods in solidarity, something that they should never do. And I was very shocked when I saw people allowing the Greater Accra regional minister to walk through the floods. Very, very dangerous. Did she know the depth of the water in which she was stepping into? What if the ground shifted? Who gave her that advice that she should be walking through the water with her people? Only Jesus walked on water when nobody told us to walk through water. It wasn't a good idea for her to do that. And if I have the chance to speak to her, I will tell her that she should never do it again because she could easily have drowned.
Well, two questions before we close. The first one is you talk about the demolitions, you talk about re-engineering. What is your preference to some of buildings have already come up? Is demolition necessary, or we should focus more on re-engineering?
Some demolition is going to be, it's a potpourri of many things. Some demolition is going to be necessary. Some areas where people have settled is going to have to be demolished in the interest of everybody else, because most of them don't have planning permission. And if they even have planning permission, that planning permission should never have been given. So we have to take down certain settlements and then make sure that we have mapped out the route for which the water is coming down from the hill. Most of the problem that we are having is from the Kwapem Hills, the water that descends from the Kwapem. Most of it, of course, some of it, like I said, is because we have made the lagoons that surround Accra basically incompetent at drainage, because we have filled them with plastic. Not only have we filled them with plastic, at certain points we have used cement to line the embankments, and I don't understand who authorized those things. It's a very bad decision.
Let me conclude by asking you a question that's not related to this matter. So if I sent you a letter that Senna, Eric, and SM Award Scheme have decided to give you an award of Best CEO for 2025, under what conditions would you agree to accept that award?
Senna, don't forget that I have been the CEO of Free Zones for 8 years. So I am very experienced. If you bring me that letter, the first question I will ask you is how much do I have to pay? How much do I have to pay for it, for the privilege? Because most of them have to pay for that privilege.
You haven't asked about criteria. You're talking about money. Why money first?
Because most of the time when those awards come, you have to pay. I've seen it before. I've seen it all before. So why also, let me ask you a question. Why do I have to be awarded for being the best CEO? Under what criteria was I awarded? How was the empiricism done? What was the measuring stick that was used? How do we measure the fact that I was the best performing CEO? What did you know? What data did you gather? So apart from asking me to come from to pay money towards the award, what else have you measured? Besides, you see, we are in government. We are serving one person. We are all serving at the pleasure of one person. If he calls you are his best performing minister, he must know something that you don't know, or he must have measured something that you don't know. And in any case, it should not be something that we put out there. Do you understand? Everybody, there are many people who work very, very, very hard and ask for no award. There are doctors who work and the nurses who work 3 and 4 day shifts to make sure that we are kept alive in the emergency centers. We have not given them any award. The teachers who work and teach children in remote areas and having been paid, we don't give them any award. The policemen that stand by the roadside, and I always say that I have something very special in my heart for police officers who are standing by the roadside at night with roadblocks to ensure that armed robbers don't come and steal our stuff and get away. They deserve awards too. Do we give them awards? No. Have we been improved their conditions of service? I don't think so. So I, as the CEO, who is probably one of the better paid people in this country, I don't need an award. I don't want an award. I don't want you to reward me or award me for anything and create, what do you call it, a public spectacle of the job that I should be doing. Because if the president didn't think that I could do my job, he wouldn't have put me there. So if you have been given a job, just go and do it. You don't need an award. I've seen it several times. Look, it is not even only Ghana. In Ghana that some of these things are sent to you from abroad. I remember a case in point when I was at Free Zones where we were sent, we were told that, and some of them are very convincing, that we have been awarded, given an award in Cambridge. It came with a whole lot of things. So I asked my staff, that how did these people know about us? Look, long and short, when I did some delving into, I found out that we had to cough up about £30,000 to get that award.
£30,000?
Yes. So I told my marketing director that don't go near that stuff. Because at the end of the day, when the auditors come and check, you pay £30,000 to get an award. Are you serious right there? So these things happen, they exist, but my principle is that if the president of this republic has given you a vocation and trust that you can do your job, get up in the morning and do your job. That's it. Because the unsung heroes in this country are so many, and we don't reward them. The people who live in this country, who have gone to work every single day for the last so many days, the doctors, the state attorneys, the prison guards, the policemen, the soldiers, people who deserve awards and better remuneration, that we are unable to give them that remuneration. Why are we rewarding ourselves? What are we rewarding ourselves for? What have we been able to do for them? Go to the Kwadwo Eye Clinic this morning. Go and see how many doctors are attending to how many patients. Look at the kinds of problems that people have. Just go. You are very near Kwadwo. Go to the eye clinic this morning. See what the doctors are going through to resolve people's problems. And then ask the doctors, how much are we paying them? They are the real heroes of our society, not me.
Okay.
I happen to be a rather privileged person, if you ask me. And some of the privileges that some of us are given for what we do, embarrassing. Okay? We do very well for what we offer. And I'm asking you, if you think I'm lying, go to the Kwadwo Eye Clinic, because I'm a regular patient there. Go and ask the doctors, right, what they go through on a daily basis. And then after that, ask them how much we pay them. They are there now. Go and ask for the likes of Dr. Tim, find out what they go through every day, how many patients they see. Go and find out how many people have glaucoma that they don't know.
Okay. Engineer, thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you, my brother.
It's always a pleasure talking to him. Very frank when it comes to his views. Well, we started with, remember, we started this whole conversation from the matter of this awards and the presidency's response. By the meantime, before we continue, and I see SM has taken his seat, the
Yeah.
Ghana Revenue Authority wishes to remind all withholding tax agents, including VAT withholding agents appointed